Finding your channel was a bit of a lifesaver moment for me. It's helped me sort through the total emotional wreck I became after my last trip to Phuket. Hearing stories from other guys that have been through the whole bargirl thing and came out on the other side, it was nice to know that I wasn't alone. Although I did not lose a lot of money, mainly because I didn't have any, I still had a wild ride and I think a story worth telling. I ended up in a relationship with a Thai bar girl that was just filled with nightmare after nightmare, a lot of jealousy, anger and emotional wreckage. It was a proper roller coaster, but one that only went down. Every day was some new drama, some new thing to be jealous about, borrowing money and ending up in debt. I was constantly stressed, but I was addicted to the chaos. Thailand almost broke me due to the state I was in. It's all my fault and I don't want or need sympathy. I just want to tell my story of how everything can eat you up if you are not thinking straight. That whole mess was something I needed to go through, I think. After a long streak of bad luck, dumb choices and just generally messing around to finally get my head sorted. I suppose it all began when I just lost my job in my country, and it was a decent job at that. Instead of job hunting and being a responsible adult, I had other plans. I was fed up at home and I wanted to do something different. That's when I ran off to Cambodia, thinking I would teach English. I spent 2 weeks in Phnom Penh and 2 weeks in Siem Reap and was actually having a pretty good time. I met a guy there who was teaching English in Phnom Penh without a work permit. He made it sound like the easiest thing in the world. He said all I had to do was walk around the area, show my face at the schools and ask for work. He reckoned if they liked the look of you, you'd get a job, no problem. But me being the guy I was at the time and never really having freedom before, I was hungover most days, just sitting by the riverside drinking 50-cent beer trying to drown my sorrows. Thinking about teaching and being drawn back into the working life, I decided I didn't have the guts for it and I booked a minibus to Siem Reap instead. Looking back, I was just running away. I thought changing cities would fix everything, but I just took all my problems with me in that minibus. Siem Reap was way more my speed though, and it did help me chill out a little bit. I'd spent most of my previous holidays in Bali, so it was amazing to see a proper legit world wonder for a change. I went back home, but I had the travel bug really bad. Still no job, feeling proper depressed and not wanting to work at all. My finances were completely screwed by then, so I dug into the last of my savings, borrowed some money and decided to blow it all in Phuket. It was a proper desperate move. I knew it was stupid, but I thought a big trip would somehow fix all of the crap in my head. I was just chasing that feeling of being somewhere else, anywhere else really. I'd heard about the Thailand tragics on your channel, and I was trying to make my crappy life better. But like they say, if you have problems back home, what makes you think Thailand will be any different? I won't get into all the stuff that was wrong at home, but just so you get the picture, it wasn't good. Bad enough that I'm going to leave it out. This story will give you a pretty good idea of the general theme of my life anyway. I thought writing some of it down might be good for me, get it off my chest. So let's get on to Phuket trip number 1. I fell for the girl before I even fell for Phuket itself. I only had eyes for her, and it didn't really bother me that we didn't really see much of the island on the first trip. My world got real small, real fast. All I cared about was seeing her. The beaches and the sights could wait. Spending time with her was the main attraction for me. I spent most of the time just walking from the little streets to Bangla Road, with the occasional hour or so, some days on the beach. We met in this tiny hole-in-the-wall bar, and after a bit of talking, a few drinks, and a lot of flirting, we were away. We were both a bit of a mess. She was struggling to pay her rent and look after herself. She was at the end of a breakup with her Thai boyfriend, who she'd been engaged to for a little while, and she'd even tattooed over the name of some foreign guy on her arm. You could tell life had knocked her around a bit. I think at the time I was her escape from acting like everything was alright in her life, and she was pretty much my escape from my own head. She was just getting by on lady drinks and the occasional meat. It was low season, and like the veterans say, the glory days for the bar girls are long gone. Between the drinking, her broken heart, and lack of funds, she was feeling pretty down like me, and she ended up staying with me for just over 3 weeks. It was a weird sort of comfort, you know. Having someone else in the room meant neither of us had to be alone with our own thoughts. We just kind of floated through those weeks in a bubble, not really thinking about tomorrow. She was a girl from Isan and hadn't even gone to high school, but she was enough street smart to figure out I wasn't exactly her knight in shining armour. I mean, let's be real, I was just some bloke with a bit of savings left. Not some big shot coming to rescue her. She saw right through that straight away. She knew she was just going through a rough patch and that things would get better, and I was just an easygoing guy she could use for a few weeks to catch a break. No matter how nice I tried to be to her though, I just got the cold shoulder, and if I showed any concern, she'd just act different. It felt like she was purposely trying to not get close to me. She knew I was a total newbie to Thailand and probably figured I wasn't much better off than her when I mentioned I was out of work. We spent most of the time in the hotel room, and I got a bit frustrated with her always being on her phone, so I looked her up on Facebook. That was a proper reality check. Seeing her profile was like looking at a completely different person, a person who was very clearly not looking for a guy like me. Her Facebook profile said she liked guys who went to the gym, had tattoos, and were big built. Here she was, just over 5 feet tall, pretty and sweet looking, like butter wouldn't melt, but she knew exactly what she liked and she went for it. I found out later that her Thai boyfriend's family owned a mini-mart and they offered her a job, but she said she hated the whole acting nice routine that she had to do all day. She preferred a good drink and meeting new people instead. I suppose when you are good at being a bar girl, then money is going to be much better than working in a mini-mart anyway. We were both drinking way too much, and I'm not a tidy drunk. I gave her about 12,000 baht over the 3 weeks, but I always felt like she was distracted, probably thinking about those tattooed guys with more money than me. One time, she bought a fruit plate as an offering for the bar and held up a small banana asking if I wanted it, while she and her friends had a giggle, almost definitely at my expense. The whole bar cracked up, and I just had to stand there and take it with a stupid smile on my face. What was I going to do? Cause a scene? I just felt my face getting hot and wanted to disappear. They knew I was broke and had to be a cheap Charlie, but making fun of me for it just added insult to injury really. But whatever, bar girls will be bar girls. My last week there, I gave her another 5,000 baht. That's when she told me she loved me, and that's when things started going downhill real quick. Hearing that just messed everything up in my head. Before that, I knew the score, and we were just having a bit of fun. But her saying that made me start believing it could be real, and that was a massive mistake on my part. I was happy with how things were. I knew I wasn't her main target, I wasn't a big prize she was trying to win. And that was fine by me. What bothered me was that I was completely head over heels, totally smitten, but her not being that serious about me kind of balanced it out, you know? That all changed with the "I love you." At first, I told her please don't say that, but in those last few days, she was way more affectionate and seemed genuine, or at least that's what I thought. We stayed in touch when I left, and I found myself constantly on Facebook, feeling sick to my stomach when men twice her age commented "beautiful" or "see you soon" on her photos. She liked a photo that popped up on my feed of a group of people, and in it, she was getting cozy with a fit, tattooed French guy in a bar. It was right there in my face, proof that nothing had changed and I was just another guy on her list. I mean, I already knew that, but it still hurt. I did ask her about it because I told her I'd only send money if she stopped working at the bar, which in hindsight got a big laugh from the universe. Of course, she had some excuse for it. He was just a friend, some story that didn't really add up. I knew she was lying, and she knew that I knew. The whole thing just felt pathetic. It's not easy to admit, but I even messaged the guy in the photo and asked him if he'd been with her. Facebook can be an evil tool for digging up dirt. Yeah, it was the beginning of the end for something that never really began in the first place. It was definitely the start of me taking a long hard look at myself anyway. Phuket trip number 2. Like a fool, I borrowed more money and went into more debt, promising family and friends that I would pay them back as soon as possible. I went back 2 months later. Her cousin owned a guest house and she got us a room with everything for 10,000 baht a month, plus a cheap bike and a great location. We went to the bars most days just after midday. Everything was peachy, but this wasn't her normal routine and we soon fell out of sync. I was trying to live a normal holiday life, but her life ran on a completely different clock. She was a night creature and I was still stuck in the day. I was going to the gym for the first time in years, I was swimming, drinking in the afternoon, and found myself going to bed pretty early. I'd wake up to find her wide awake on her phone, often looking pretty pleased with herself. She wasn't happy after we'd done all the touristy, sightseeing stuff. She was up all night and slept all day. I started getting frustrated and told her that if she was unhappy, she should just go. She looked really shocked that I said that. She obviously thought I was completely clueless about how she felt and what she was up to. She brushed off what I said, but she was not impressed to say the least. She went downstairs to see her cousin, and I'm sure she was complaining about my bad manners. I went down to find her and got a frosty reception from her, while her cousin and his 2 friends were all friendly. She did end up staying, but things didn't get better, and the tables totally turned. Now, I was the one who seemed unhappy, and she was the one acting concerned. She had this way of making me feel like I was the one causing all of the problems. I'd be upset about her being on her phone all night, and she'd act like I was being crazy and controlling for even asking. Looking back, she was right to flip it on me. I should have just gone along with the arrangement. Even with the "I love you" and "you are my boyfriend now," it was still a transaction with money involved. With all this bad feeling in the air, I stopped going to the gym and started bar hopping by myself. At one bar off of the soy where I'd stayed last trip, one of the girls started flirting with me and we ended up kissing. The Thai lady who ran the till, a friend of my girlfriend, said something to the dancing girl and she hopped right back behind the bar. I made my way back to the room. How I managed to ride a scooter, I have no idea. but I go slow if that makes anyone feel better. The next day, my girlfriend had obviously gotten a full report and told me straight up that I'm like a dog when I've had a drink. I told her again that I knew she was unhappy staying with me and she could go back to her own room if she wanted. She brushed it off again and told me she wanted to work. She did some laundry, so I thought that's what she meant, but I'm sure she was also talking about her main job. Her phone was going off constantly. I got more jealous than I should have. She was with me after all and wasn't going out. I told her she could go and meet these guys from her phone if that's what she really wanted, and this time she actually went. I thought she'd argue or maybe even stay to prove a point, but she just grabbed her bag and walked out without a second look. Looking back, that was the moment I realized I had a problem that I had no clue how to fix. I was crushed when she left, but the messed up part was I knew she wasn't happy. There's always new guys arriving in Phuket, 2-week millionaires waiting to blow all their money, and here she was with me. I went to her usual bar that night and told her friend that she'd left the guest house. Her friend said she'd talked to her and we all met up later at the club. I was a bit worse for wear and I wanted to leave, so the three of us were walking out to the bike when she decided I was too drunk and she wanted to stay. I asked her to come with me, but she said no and that she was scared. Hearing her say she was scared of me made me feel bad because that is not the type of person I am at all. But I was too drunk and too angry to care. I just felt myself getting more and more wound up. I said, okay, whatever, and went back to the room. But at the room, I was eaten up with jealousy, trying not to think about what she was doing. So I got on my bike and headed back to the club. The club was closed by then, so I went to her room and called out from downstairs because there's a security door with a code. No reply. Feeling a little crazy, but more sad than anything, I decided it's best to just go home, but if my luck couldn't get any worse, I came off the bike at speed, hitting a brick wall. I was dazed, but picked up the bike. It luckily bounced instead of crunching, so it was okay. I went back to the room, showered, changed, and looked at my wounds. I still have the scars now to this day. I messaged her again, but no reply. Not really sure what I was thinking in my state, but I made the decision to go to her room again and called out. Her two roommates popped their heads over the balcony. She was there this time and she came down, parked the bike for me and took me upstairs. The three girls cleaned my cuts with some kind of alcohol or something and fussed over me for a bit. After I had another drink, I curled up with my girlfriend on her sleeping mat, which was actually really comfortable. It was what she'd been sleeping on since she left her Thai boyfriend's place. The other two girls, they stayed in the bed. I found out later that the breakup with her Thai boyfriend happened because she'd brought a guy back to the room when he was away. I felt for him, I really did. We were okay for the rest of my time there, and she came back to the guest house, but I was still fully aware that I wasn't her number one. Wrecking the bike didn't make things any better. I mentioned I wanted to stay another month, and her response was, "Oh, please don't." She told me she was joking, but I got the message. She didn't even need to say it straight. The message came through loud and clear. She clearly did not want to be around me much longer and wanted to find someone else. All the travelling, drinking, and emotional chaos of the last year finally caught up with me, and I cried like a little girl on the phone to my mum. I'd moved back home after leaving my job, which my girlfriend knew about, and I'm sure that's a big red flag for any woman. The relationship was a complete wreck, and so was my life. On my last night, we drank at her regular bar, and I bought a round for the owner and the girls, a bill of 5,000 baht. My girlfriend was fuming about it because she wanted a new phone instead. We both drank too much, and the next day we had an awkward lunch and a beer at the regular bar, while both of us were extremely hungover. It was an awkward goodbye. My feelings for her were still 100% there, but so was the knowledge that it wasn't a relationship I could afford to keep going. I couldn't help her, and I couldn't help myself, which made me feel really miserable. Getting on that plane, I felt like the biggest letdown. I was leaving the one thing that made me feel alive, even if it was also destroying me. The whole flight home, I just stared at the seat in front of me, completely empty. I got back home, and the thought of spending New Year's and Christmas there instead of Phuket really got me down. The guest house would have been empty, and her cousin would have been happy to have me pay for another month. I messaged my girl, and she told me that high season was too expensive, that I always have problems in Phuket, and that I should just stay at home. Sitting in my mum's house while she said that was a special kind of hell. She was basically telling me I was more trouble than I was worth. Every part of me just wanted to be back there, even if there were problems. I told her that I wanted to get away for New Year's, and that if she didn't want to see me, I'd go to Pattaya or Bali. She took about a week to make up her mind and then said, "Okay, come to Phuket." But I'd already bought a ticket to Bali and told her I couldn't cancel it. So I sent her some money and said I'd see her next year. She wasn't happy when she realized I could find another girl in Bali and started calling me every morning at 5 a.m. after she got home drunk, saying, "You stay with lady?" I'm ashamed to say it, but I didn't answer most of those calls, and I did meet a girl in Bali. She didn't drink, and she was very family-oriented. It was all very straightforward, and she wasn't looking for any kind of relationship. The girl in Bali was nice, but there was no fire, no chaos. It was peaceful, and for some strange reason, it made me miss the mess back in Phuket even more. I really did enjoy the Thai girl's company, even if it doesn't sound like it from what I've written. I was seriously in love and appreciated her wild personality, and the fact that she gave me so much of her time. She was very attractive, and I was kidding myself to think I could have her all to myself. I asked her about her new friend she's added on Facebook, a French guy with a profile picture of him outside a Thai gym. She told me he was just a friend. I realized it was only a matter of time before she found herself a serious, cashed-up foreigner in Phuket. I got drunk one night and sent her a photo of the girl I met in Bali. It was a nasty thing to do, and I still don't know why I did it. The phone calls and messages pretty much ended after that. She went back home for New Year's to see her family, and at first said she didn't know when she'd be back. I told her I bought a ticket to Phuket on the 7th, and that I missed her and wasn't interested in the Bali girl. She told me not to bother and that she wouldn't be there, so I bought a ticket to fly home instead. Then she messaged me saying she'd be back in Phuket on the 7th, the same day I was supposed to arrive, but my flight home wasn't refundable. That was her game. She loved keeping me off balance. Just when I'd given up, she dangled the carrot again, and like an idiot, I was always ready to chase it, even when it cost me money that I didn't have. She'd spent all her money on New Year's celebrations and asked me for some, but I didn't have any. She messaged me one night and sent a photo of herself at the bar. I asked what she was doing, and she said working. I chatted with her for a while, and then she said, I go make money now. I guess I kinda deserve that. Phuket trip number 3. No money, no clear future, completely down, too much drinking, and an angry Thai girl. It was a recipe for disaster, and it blew up on this trip to Phuket. Borrowing money yet again, and using up all of my savings, I bought a ticket for the 20th. She said she didn't want to see me and that her cousin had sold the guest house. I believed her because it had been for sale, but I had a drink with the cousin when I got to Phuket, and he told me he hadn't sold it and wasn't happy that she said that. I asked her if we could meet for just a drink, and she agreed. I got a hotel, messaged her when I arrived, and asked if she could help me find a cheap bag to rent, but she didn't reply. I went to our old bar, and she turned up about an hour later. No doubt someone had told her I was there. She refused to speak to me and just ignored me. I tried to pay for her drink, but she snatched the bill out of my hand. I left in a huff, but came back about 20 minutes later. There was a good-looking Thai girl at the front of the bar who was really keen and grabbed my arm. She was super attractive, and I should have sat with her instead of desperately chasing after someone who wasn't interested. But I kept walking and I sat down. I was completely hooked on this girl. Even with a perfectly good option right there, I couldn't let it go. My brain was just broken. My ex was getting ready to leave with her friend, and I asked if she was going to talk to me or not. I asked her to come back to the hotel, and she said, "What for?" I told her I missed her, and she said, "You go back to the hotel and go to sleep." I felt totally unwelcome, so I waved goodbye and got another drink. I was feeling lonely, and I tried again, messaging her, "Come for one drink." She replied no, and asked me to delete her. I told her friend who worked at the bar, and she said she would talk to her. I did get a good night message later when I got back to the hotel, and being very drunk, I replied with, "I deleted you already." I woke up full of regret and went to the bar early the next night. A big tattooed Swedish guy turned up and said to one of the girls he was looking for his friend. My ex showed up, hugged the Swedish guy, who looked like he had been working out every hour of every day for the last 20 years, and of course, she didn't speak to me. Seeing her wrap herself around that guy, it was so obvious I was nothing to her, just some sad bloke from her past. I should have walked out right then. I was numb, just sitting at the bar like a stone. I watched as they moved to the front of the bar, 3 Thai girls and the tattooed Swede. They drank, got merry, and laughed. Why I was still there, I have no idea. Every laugh from their table felt like a personal dig. I just kept ordering drinks, trying to drown out the noise in my head, but it wasn't working. I was just getting more sober and more miserable. She sat next to him, tried on his hat and sunglasses like she was trying to hide, and hugged him and kissed him. He kissed all the girls at the table, so I didn't know what to think. And yes, I was still there, drinking by myself. I asked her friend working at the bar if they were together, and she said no. I went over to the table and asked one of her other friends if I could sit with them. She said, "No, better you sit over there." Thais usually care about good manners, so this was a big deal. I should have left right then. I went back to my seat, feeling even more numb. I couldn't think straight or process what was happening or how fast it was all going downhill. After a few more drinks, I just had to leave. I walked down Bangla Road feeling empty, ashamed, and a total mess. I felt completely ruined inside. I just wanted to disappear into the crowd and forget the whole night. I stopped at some random bar and sat down with 3 girls who looked surprised to see me. I must have stormed in looking like a riot state. I got a whiskey, and that's the last thing I clearly remember. I don't even remember going back to the hotel or how I got there. Still out of it, I went back out to the club that my ex likes, but it was closed. I was a sad, lost, emotional, crazy person, or a maniac, depending on your point of view. I woke up with my ex sitting at the end of the bed. I looked around, not knowing where I was at first, and then I looked at her face, and she had this look of pity and anger. It turns out I turned up at her room, banging on the door, asking to be with her, but I don't remember any of that. I said to her, "Where did you go?" And she said, "I work." I asked if it was with the Swedish guy from the bar, and she said no, that he had a girlfriend. I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, she was holding the door open for me. I left without a word and went downstairs. Walking away from her room that time was different. There was no big scene, just this heavy feeling that it was finally over, and we had nothing left to say. I went back to my hotel, got changed, and the mental fog started to lift a little. After I sent a few angry text messages, she blocked me on all the chat apps that we used. It was officially over. No more arguments, no more chances, just silence. I had 12 days left in Patong. I spent them crying, drinking, and spending all my money until I ran out. I saw her friend at the bar again, and she said that my ex had left town. She posted photos on Facebook that looked like she was in South Phuket or maybe PP Islands. I'll never know. Those last days were rock bottom. I was just a ghost in Phuket, completely hollowed out. The party was long over for me, and I was just waiting for my flight out. I was lucky my family sent me some money, and I met a Thai girl who stayed with me for nothing. She did my laundry and brought me painkillers, coffee, fried chicken, sticky rice, and iced tea when I was too much of a deranged, shame-filled mess to leave the hotel. That girl was an angel. She saw I was broken and just helped out without asking for anything in return. It was a small bit of kindness when I really needed it. The one place that my ex didn't block me was Facebook, but I still couldn't message her. Her profile picture now is one with the French guy from her Facebook from earlier. Seeing that photo, there was nothing else to be said or done. It was just there to show me she had moved on to exactly the kind of guy she always wanted. I am glad she finally found happiness, something that I could not give her. And you know what? That's okay. I had to lose everything over there to finally get my head straight. It was the worst time of my life, but I did really need it. I have been sober now for over 6 months, working again and finally getting my life on track. Just thought I'd share my crazy story with your viewers.